The first time I laid eyes on that thing, I honestly thought maybe I'd been robbed by a bridal magazine, no kidding. Picture this: a big white gazebo draped in curtains, sparkling with a crystal chandelier and scattered with pastel cushions, just sitting out there in my pasture like it owned the place. Solar fairy lights even blinking in broad daylight like they were trying to get the sun's attention. And it had just appeared, out of thin air. I stood there in my boots, coffee half cold, feeling like I'd stepped onto the set of some reality show where the joke was definitely on me. But the real cherry on top, right in the middle of this backyard wedding fantasy, sitting cross-legged with cucumber water in hand, was Karen. Not a generic Karen the Karen. HOA board member, local menace, and reigning queen of all things sanctimonious in Oakview Meadows. When I walked up, still half thinking maybe I'd wandered into a parallel universe, and asked as politely as I could muster, why in the name of common sense there was a miniature wedding chapel on my land. She just smiled at me, real sweet, and goes, "It's just a few feet onto your property, Rick. You weren't using it anyway." That was the moment. The moment I knew this wasn't just a mistake. This was war. Or, well, at least a one-sided standoff. You know that feeling when you realize the peace and quiet you worked for is about to go up in smoke? Yeah, that hit me right in the chest. That morning had started out like any other. Just me, my coffee, the chickens, and a quiet sunrise over the fields I call my own. I loved that first breath outside, boots barely laced, everything simple and familiar. And then bam, this structure glinting in the dawn like a shrine to entitlement. For a second I thought maybe someone got lost. Maybe some poor wedding planner took a wrong turn. But then I saw at the banner Karen's Retreat written in big swooping gold letters. My stomach did a little flip. Because if there's one thing I know, it's that Karen never met a boundary she didn't want to move. This is the same woman who once tried to ban porch swings in the entire subdivision for being too casual. The same woman who picked fights with school bus drivers, mailmen, you name it. But this was new territory, literal territory. Mine. So I marched over there, ducking under curtains that reeked of lavender oil and, honestly, injustice. Karen's got this sun hat on so wide a hawk could nest in it, barely glances up from her book. Something about moon energy. She greets me like I've interrupted a sacred ritual. I ask as calmly as I can what she's doing on my land. She doesn't miss a beat. "Oh, it's for my women's circle," she says, all breathy and serene. "My backyard lacks the spiritual openness of your pasture. I just feel drawn to this spot." I don't say much, I just point out the obvious. There's the survey marker, there's the line, and you, Karen, are on my side. She sips her cucumber water, gives me this tight little smile, and says, "Don't be so territorial, Rick. It's just a few feet. Besides, my uncle used to own this land, so sort of still in the family, right?" I had to bite my tongue not to laugh or scream. The logic. The confidence I told her flat out the gazebo had to be gone by sundown. She laughed. Not sarcastic, big belly deep, "you're adorable" kind of laugh. That's when I knew for sure she thought she was untouchable. Truth is, I've spent more time staring at those property lines than I have at my own reflection. So instead of losing my cool, I just nodded and walked away. If Karen wanted to treat my pasture like her backyard, she was about to get the full farm experience. That night, with the sun going down and my patience wearing thin, I pulled out my property deed coordinates, drone footage, the whole 9 yards. That gazebo was 12 feet onto my land, not just a few. I poured a cold beer, opened my notebook, and wrote down one word at the top: pigs. See, my uncle used to raise hogs right in that part of the field. The soil's still good for it. I'd always meant to start again. Now I had motivation. Karen wanted serenity. She was about to get it, snorts and all. The next day I kept quiet, just went about my business, but made damn sure Karen saw me pacing the property line with a measuring tape, driving stakes into the ground. One at the boundary, one right through her precious gazebo's leg. When she asked what I was doing, I just smiled. "Making plans, Karen. Big changes coming." By that evening, I'd ordered lumber troughs, a new gate. Called up my brother Clay, he does some contracting, and told him I needed a fence. "Make it poetic," I said. "You bet," he replied, already laughing. Over the next week, Karen doubled down. She started throwing what I can only describe as passive-aggressive picnics, loud music-scented candles, and her guests waving at me like I was some kind of farm animal exhibit. I smiled and waved back, marked off more land with bright neon rope. then took a little trip to the county office. Down at the office, Doug the clerk took one look at my permit application, raised an eyebrow, and chuckled. "You building justice, Rick Yup." He stamped it with a grin. The permit was for a livestock shelter, and it was perfectly legal. Meanwhile, Karen just left her gazebo sitting there growing roots. Entitlement is heavy stuff, makes moving furniture feel impossible. That was fine by me. The pigs would take care of the rest. The day the pigs arrived, the sky was clear, and the air had that thick, expectant feeling you get right before something fun happens. 5 little hogs, snorting and wild-eyed, trotted out of the trailer and straight toward the gazebo. The biggest one, Mozarta, made herself at home in the center, flopping down on Karen's velvet cushions with a kind of joy that only pigs can muster. Harold, the smallest, immediately started chewing on the curtains. Karen came out, cup of tea in hand, and just froze. Her face went from morning glow to beet red in half a second. "Get those animals out of here," she shrieked. I told her perfectly calm. "They're my livestock. You're welcome to visit, but I'd recommend boots and maybe a clothespin for your nose." Her mouth opened and closed like she was catching flies. The next few days were pure theater. Karen, flustered but determined, tried to fight back. First came the letter accusing me of environmental hostility, digging, fencing, aesthetic disruption. All signed emergency board, which was really just Karen and her inner circle. I responded with my land deed survey and permit, plus a thank you note. "Appreciate the gazebo donation. My animals love it." Brenda, the HOA clerk, tried not to laugh as she stamped my paperwork. "She's going to lose her mind," she whispered. "Good," I grinned. "Maybe she'll find some sense." But Karen didn't stop. She called the sheriff. I told him to come by any time. The pigs were loud, muddy, and spectacularly destructive, at least to anything with a hint of pretension, but everything was perfectly above board. One day a county inspector showed up, a guy named Alliston Boots, caked with clay, clipboard in hand. He circled the fence, made notes, nodded at my permit, and said, "Everything's in order, Rick." I could hear Karen sputtering on the other side of the field. Then Karen tried the nuclear option noise. 6:03 a.m. I woke to the sound of classical music blaring. She'd set up speakers facing my field, thinking the pigs would lose it. Jokes on her Mozarta, started bopping her head, and pretty soon the other pigs were dancing. Before I knew it, half the neighborhood was showing up to watch the dancing pigs of Karen's gazebo. Some kid filmed it, posted it online. Boom, 70,000 views in 2 days. People wanted to visit. Animal lovers started sending donations. Someone sent blankets, and Mozarta was an instant star. Karen lost her mind. She accused me of exploiting her aesthetics. I pointed at the pigs. "They seem happy and don't charge rent." Every move she made trying to reclaim her throne just made things worse. The HOA came at me next with threats of fines and cease and desist orders. But my land's never been under their thumb. Their rules stopped where my grass started. Just to drive it home, I posted my property deed and a huge map on the fence. HOA, free zone trespassers will be educated or hugged by pigs. I'm pretty sure Karen read that one every night from her upstairs window. The final act, the one that changed everything, came during the awards ceremony. Yeah, you heard me. The local animal welfare group nominated Karen's Pig Palace, their words not mine, for a community award. I figured it'd be a small gathering, lemonade, cookies, a podium. Instead, the mayor showed up. Reporters, too. Mozarta pranced around in a red ribbon, and I gave a little speech about letting mud do the talking instead of fists. The crowd laughed, the pigs squealed, and for a moment the whole battle seemed kind of ridiculous. That's when Karen showed up, sunglasses on, wild hair, storming through the crowd. She started shouting, "You think this is funny? You turned my gazebo into a joke, made me a laughingstock." Everything stopped. Even the pigs paused. I walked up calm as ever. "Karen, you built your gazebo on my land? You ignored warnings? You tried to use power to bully and intimidate, and when I responded, you tried to ruin me. But what you actually did was help build something people love." She sputtered, threatened, but nobody was listening. Her power, her audience, it was all gone. She turned and walked away out of the story, out of her own legend. Funny thing is, after that day, things actually got better. School kids started visiting on weekends, teachers brought field trips. We planted a vegetable garden. Local businesses donated supplies. That gazebo, once a monument to Karen's ego, became a landmark. And Karen She moved away, tried to rebrand herself, but you can't outrun the internet, especially when there's a viral video of a pig chasing you through the mud. Looking back, I realized the real lesson snuck up on me. I didn't want revenge. Not really. What I wanted was respect. Karen tried to take that from me, but ended up giving me something way better. A story, a community, and a sanctuary built on stubbornness, patience, and a whole lot of pig power. As the sun went down, I closed the gate, tipped my hat, and watched Mosarda and her crew settle in for the night. The land was quiet, not the silence of surrender, but the peace that comes from seeing justice served one muddy hoof at a time. And, maybe that's the thing. Where's the line between standing up for yourself and just fighting for the sake of fighting? Between justice and pettiness. Maybe you've been on the wrong side of someone else's fence before, or maybe you've been me watching someone plant their flag where it doesn't belong. Either way, I'd love to hear what you think. Is justice about the law, about karma, or about who's got the most pigs on their side? Drop your thoughts below, tell me your story. Because in the end, it's not just about land. It's about standing up, standing your ground, and knowing when to let the mud do the talking.